I'm Easy.
All right. Okay, we're live. Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? Can you hear me? Oh, yeah. Can you see me? You can see me, you can hear me. All right, see? This is what we look like on camera.
God, I'm beautiful.
All right, yes. Fantastic. And we have a very special broadcast today for you folks. I am in the heart of Dublin, Ireland, and we just got done at Trinity College. And we have a really incredible guest here today who's going to walk us through the revolutionary tour of Ireland. Would you like to...
Welcome, Hasan. And I like the way you say Dublin. That's the way it's pronounced.
That's the right way to say it, right?
Dublin. The capital of Ireland. Ireland has 32 counties altogether. 6 of them are still considered part of the so-called United Kingdom, but very soon we're going to have a united Ireland. 32 counties all as one. I've spent a long time working on Irish revolutionary history. When I was a young lad, I saw this document for the first time. It's the Proclamation.
We just saw this at the Trinity College in the library.
It was a very important document to us, okay? And it's the
also, wait, before we're getting ahead of ourselves. Yeah. We gotta introduce you, Lorcan Collins. Am I saying it right?
Yeah, that's right. That'll do me.
How would you and how would I say it? No, I want to say
Lorcan is fine.
Lorcan.
Yeah.
Lorcan Collins. 1916 walking tour.
That's it.
Okay. Shouts out to Dan Lambert, kneecap manager, who set this up for us. Before we get into any of the history, though, because my man said he's a yapper. Okay, and I'm very excited. We got to down these Guinnesses.
Get him into you.
Yeah. I asked if he wanted to drink. He said, "I'm not drinking on the job."
No, and if I have one, I'm going to have 8 or 10.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
We're going to do that too. So if you want to get started with us, you can.
This live stream will become completely different.
Don't drink on the job. So.
He is such a fucking liar. He's lying.
Yeah.
He doesn't
I think
drink.
I've seen him lying in a gutter.
He doesn't drink on the job. Here, you put the camera down. Let's down these.
Okay.
Well, we're not supposed to chug them, right? So what's
you guys
split into G?
No, listen, lads. Well, can I say to you, that's splitting the G. That's a new thing.
It's not real.
No, there's nothing traditional about that.
Okay.
You know, that's like
marketing.
It's young. Yes, marketing. Like just the drink.
Look at how perfectly poured this is. It's crazy.
Well,
what a pour.
That's Alan from the International Bar, right?
Yeah.
So he's a long standing barman here. He must be here nearly 35 years, okay? And you know, these barmen years ago, they did apprenticeships, right? So they did a few years practicing how to pull a pint. Nowadays, you guys could walk in off the street and become a barman now.
All right,
okay?
yeah,
so
you see this? Marge's already going in for it.
Sláinte,
right?
Sláinte, correct. To your health. That's it. He's going for it. You're going for it.
I didn't even get close.
You're a baby.
I could have, but he said not to, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, no, that's
delicious.
it. That's grand. That's
grand. Yeah, it's, what time is it here? It is currently 5:38, Wednesday, December 3rd here, and in Los Angeles, California, obviously it's 9:30.
In the morning?
It's a little bit early for you guys, much earlier than usual. And the format is obviously going to be a little bit different than usual, because at this time of the day, I go live at 11 a.m. Pacific time, and then I do the news. I do news coverage.
Okay, good.
From my desktop normally, but and then sometimes after that news coverage we go out. But right now, since because of the time zone, we wanted to do this before, and then I'll be doing some news coverage later. I will be a little inebriated.
I can one-handed.
I will be a little inebriated. So what are we doing here? What is the significance of this bar that you brought us to, which is like a private area underneath the bar, by the way?
It's called the International Bar on Wicklow Street. It's been in the same family, the Donoghue family, for 6 generations, which is an incredible amount of time in a Dublin bar. So 30 years ago, when I decided to set up my walking tour, I met with a lot of resistance, you can imagine. I went to the tourist authority and I had all these great ideas, wanted to talk about our revolutionary movement and where we are today, and they were sort of horrified by it. One even said, no, that's the Ireland we want to move away from, the violence, okay? So I hate that kind of attitude, and that actually made me more determined. And I came into this bar, John and James are the owners. They were young lads like myself at the time. We were all in our 20s, and I said, "Oh, I wouldn't mind setting up a tour," and they were like, "Yeah, come on, go for it." And it was the second tour in Dublin, and I feel after all these years that I'm very lucky to do what I do, because I get to talk for a living, and I get to walk around the streets and, you know, be in the best city in Europe as well, if not in the world. So really, what it's all about is this document, as I say, you know, the proclamation, and it's the Irish men and Irish women. So I'll remind you that your country and my country, we didn't have votes for women at the time. So these revolutionaries are way ahead of their time. We got votes for women in Ireland in 1918. But it was restricted to 30-year-old women. You had to be age 30 and have a property qualification, right?
Oh, wow.
You could be a 21-year-old male. Now, I'm sure you'll agree with me, young man and young people, that you are. A 21-year-old does not have the same intellectual capacity and decision-making capability as a 30-year-old woman. In fairness, it's the other way around. And the sooner you suck that up, the easier your life is.
Yeah.
But there's a lovely paragraph, Hasan, that you like. The Republic guarantees religious and civil liberty, equal rights and equal opportunities to all its citizens, and declares its resolve to pursue the happiness and prosperity of the whole nation, cherishing all the children of the nation equally, and oblivious of the differences carefully fostered by an alien government which have divided a minority from the majority in the past. Okay?
Yeah, so for the Americans, this is significant because at the time, Ireland is still under colonial occupation.
Correct. And the key word all the time is imperialism.
Yeah.
This is what these guys are fighting against, because you have different sectors of revolutionary society that come together. So some are members of Óglaigh na hÉireann, the Irish Volunteers, which in turn became the IRA. Others are member of the Irish Citizen Army. They happen to be my favourite organisation. They don't have to be yours, but they probably would be. They're called Socialist Republicans. There's a lovely phrase, Socialist Republicans. Yeah, bring it on. And there's others who are members of Fianna na hÉireann or na Fianna Éireann, the Warriors, the Scouting organisation, and of course, Cumann na Mán as well, the Women's Volunteers, and they all came together. Initially, the uprising was planned for Easter Sunday, and we were going to get a big shipment of weapons that were going to come in from Germany. 20,000 rifles were expected to land in County Kerry on a steamship called the Aud, disguised as a Norwegian vessel. Sadly, the weapons ship arrived a little bit earlier, was captured by the British, forced to sail into Cove Harbour in County Cork, and as the ship entered the harbour, a man called Carl Spindler, the captain, scuttled his vessel, and down to the bottom of the sea went all the weapons for the uprising. So what happened is, word got to a man called Owen MacNeill, and he cancelled the uprising at the last minute. He took out an advertisement in a newspaper to stand the volunteers, and he asked a few lads to drive around Ireland, stopping the uprising as well. So the 7 men who would become the signatories, the proclamation, these 7 guys, Tom Clark down to Joe Plunkett, they had a meeting in Liberty Hall, the Union Building. They trashed out their options on Sunday morning and said, right lads, no one's going to come out today, Sunday. Let's go ahead tomorrow instead, Easter Monday, and kick off at 12 noon. So nobody knew, is it on or is it off? Do you get me? You know, if you're planning on going somewhere, and it gets cancelled, you get pissed with the organisers, right? Say you're going to a gig, I don't know, who do you like? Who would you like to go and see? Kneecap.
Kneecap, sure.
Right, and if the boys cancelled the gig at the last minute, you'd get annoyed with them. But if they said, come on, we'll have the gig tomorrow night, you'd still go, and I'd still go, but a lot of people would say, I'm not going to give them a second chance. So we say about those who did turn out that Easter Monday morning, they were the best of the best. And in our language, in Irish, we say, Ní bhaile héad ann arish. Their likes would not be seen again. The best of the best. Would you like to see these bullets I brought? They're from the bottom of the sea.
He's got a bunch of stuff for us. Also, when I'm looking down, I'm not being rude, I promise. I'm looking at the chat because chat is giving us feedback as they're watching. So, remember, we are going to be doing a revolutionary tour of Ireland, and he's showing us a bunch of... Wow, that is...
So I have a pal, Ben, he's a diver, and he dived down to the site where the ship was sunk, and he brought up a few rounds. Now you can see that they're in a very poor state of decomposition because they've been down at the bottom of the sea for a long time. He brought these up when it was legal to do so. It's illegal to do so now. Yeah. I guess maybe it's
Why is it illegal to do so now?
A protected structure or a protected site, something like that. But this one is pretty cool because it's so intact. And it's actually, topically, it's a Russian round. It's a Mosin Nagant. So the rounds that we were going to get from the Germans were captured in the Battle of Tannenberg in August 1914, first big battle of World War I. And then they were stored in Hamburg, and then they sent them to us.
These are the German socialists that did that?
Yeah, well, this would be the imperialists, really, the German imperialists that would be sent. Now, our policy, I suppose, at the time was, it's two empires duking it out in Europe.
Whoever's with us
is my enemy's enemy, my friend. In this case, yes. But James Connolly, who's the socialist Republican leader, he said, by rights, we should meet the Germans if they invaded us, but we will meet them on the beach with a sword in one hand and a torch in the other. So he's not about to replace one imperialist force for another one, but use these people.
So the German imperialists that were sending the weapon shipments had a similar attitude that like the French did against in the American Revolution.
You got it.
Yeah.
You got it.
So enemy of my enemy is tactically my friend at the time.
Correct. And we, if we go back to 1798, we had a great year of revolution then with the United Irishmen. Theobald Wolfe got himself a commission in the French Navy, and in 1796, 2 years beforehand, he brought 45 ships to Ireland with 14,500 French soldiers and sailors, and they could have helped tremendously. So we have a place in our heart for the French. Sadly, the weather was too bad and they couldn't land, but they tried, and that's equally important. One last thing to show you here.
A musket, right?
Yeah, it's packed solid into this 18-pounder, a big shell that weighs 18 pounds, and there's that's poisonous, I should tell you in advance, so obviously don't lick it or something like that. But it's lead antimony or antimone. So there was 360 of them packed into the shell, and it exploded in midair and rain down on top of you.
Oh, okay. So that's like, I was going to say, this is a musket.
Yeah, well...
It looks like what I would assume would come out of a musket.
It's very similar. Very similar. Like, if you look at some of the destruction on the streets of Dublin, this is what it looked like. Complete bombardment. And a lot of fires, of course, that raged around Dublin as well. I mean, this looks like what Gaza looks like at the moment, right?
Yeah.
Now, but this was restricted to a few streets. It wasn't It wasn't the way it is
was
in
happening.
Gaza. I'm not.
This
I'm
was
not
happening
comparing
in
them.
1916.
This is 1916. But what all this destruction of the city and the executions of the leaders, altogether 14 were executed in Dublin, and Roger Casement was hanged by the neck in Pentonville prison, and a man called Thomas Kent was executed down in Cork. So 16 executions, and that helped to change public opinion. It brought people over towards revolution.
At the Trinity College, they were saying that this was one of the few instances where a failed revolution actually fomented a successful one later down the line.
Yeah, see, now, Hasan, I have a little difficulty with the term failed because I never...
It's not my words.
No,
not my words.
I'm sure it's their words. I know it's their words. And I hear other guides, and they say it a lot. They say things like, Robert Emmet's failed uprising in 1803. And then you say, well, where was your uprising? What did you ever do?
True.
You know what it strikes me like? People who are critics.
You know what I just realized?
And they never make a movie.
It's right here.
I was going to say that to you. I was going to say that to you.
Yeah, the cross-section of an 18-pounder shrapnel shell, lead antimony balls.
That's right. That's from a friend of mine, Kieran McMullen, over in America, who was in the American military. I think he was in the army. So he's very good on all this. And he told me that there's a time device here that you twist before you put it into the cannon, right? And then it sends a message through the cordite to a bowl of gunpowder down here, and then explodes, and the pressure sends the shrapnel and the balls in your general direction, So, look, what happened in 1916 was they occupied key buildings, the General Post Office, the GPO, the Four Courts, the Judicial Centre, City Hall.
I can't help but notice you got this cool pin. What's going on there?
All right, so this is a little thing I made myself. I call it the Gaza lily. We have a symbol called the Easter lily, which is green, white, and orange, which you wear around Easter to symbolize that you support the methods and aims of the men and women of 1916. So I did a few of these up with some friends of mine who make badges, and we sold them for medical aid for Palestine. And of course, the stamen is blood red, if you will, and it's the Gazan flag
Yeah,
colours.
it's beautiful.
Well, thanks. Well, guess what? I have one for you.
Oh,
Yeah, how about
okay.
that? That's pretty
Look
cool.
at that.
That's one there for you, pal.
Well, you got some other badges on there
But
as well. What do
that
you
was
got? What
another
else
one
you
I
got?
made. It's sort of a ribbon with the same idea. That was actually for the Laji Centre, the Laji Refugee Centre. And this is a commemorative IRA pin, actually. So you might as well have one of them. Maybe don't wear it as you're going back into America, like on
Well,
your lapel.
you say that, but it's really interesting because Americans, on the one hand, are very, they get very upset with anti-colonial resistance movements.
Yeah.
However, in American tradition, in American history, you even had Republicans in America, which is different than an Irish Republican,
Sure.
of course, that would actually have tip jars at bars, at Irish pubs in America that would then send money directly to the IRA or even weapons directly to the IRA, right? I think there was a Republican politician in America, you know better than I do. There is a Republican politician who I think was later caught directly sending arms shipments to the IRA at the time during the Troubles.
Yeah. And you might have heard the phrase like that was on some of those buckets, maybe a book a bullet, maybe that's something I heard.
Yeah.
Here, look, I'll give you a copy of one of my books as well. This is on James Connolly. I spent a long time writing that. He's a great guy. He spent a long time in the United States. He would have known Big Bill Haywood and Eugene Debs and Mother Jones, Bill Troutman, Elizabeth Gurley Flynn. He stayed there from 1903 to 1910, and he was involved in the IWW, the Wobblies, right? So he's a great fella. Now, for your listeners or your
What's going
viewers,
on here? You got
I just wanted to mark out a lovely phrase for you. Do you want me to read it, or do you want to read
yeah, that'd
it?
be great. You do it.
It's
You got a much better voice.
I like your voice, mate.
No, you got a good accent and a good voice for it.
Well, this is about royalty. And you know, royalty is like part of imperialism and it's part of capitalism as well. And just because you're, you know, not the king, you can be the capitalist king as well. But I just love this phrase. He's so quotable. But anyway, it goes a people mentally poisoned by the adulation of royalty can never attain to that spirit of self-reliant democracy necessary for the attainment of social freedom. The mind accustomed to political kings can easily be reconciled to social kings. Capitalist kings of the workshop, the mill, the railway, the ships, and the docks. Monarchy is a survival of the tyranny imposed by the hand of greed and treachery upon the human race in the darkest and most ignorant days of our history. I mean, if I wrote that one line in my life, I'd be happy, right? But all of his words are like that.
Yeah,
I'd love you to read that.
My version of this is, I call it peasant brain.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, this is, of course, nowhere near as eloquent, but a lot of people have surf brain, as I like to say, where they think that they too will become a king one day. It's this aspirational goal that I think the capitalist system designs that makes working class people not recognize their class position, not recognize their class interests, and then consistently advocate against it.
Sure.
Yeah. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, for sure, when you're young, you know, somebody dangles this carrot in front of your face and says, someday you could be a millionaire if you work hard.
Yeah.
Well, you know, freeing yourself from that as an aim in life is what we should all be aiming for.
Yeah.
Because it's such a useless goal in life.
Yeah.
This is also another book. Maybe we give this to your partner there, your pal. That's
My
on
partner.
well,
partner.
partner in
My
in,
life partner.
in crime. That's on the War of Independence or the Tan War. And I'll tell you about that when we're out in the streets because the IRA fought against the Black and Tans, who were a ferocious group. And actually, there's a good connection here with Palestine because when these marauding people, the Tans, were brought to Ireland by Winston Churchill, they arrived here in March 1920. And when they were done here, they were sent over to Palestine to fight against the Arabs. And it's incredibly interesting. They used to pull down your house here if you were in the IRA. Like Michael Collins' house, they pulled it down, his little family home. And the same trick they did over there in Palestine, and the same thing the IDF were doing to Hamas people.
Is that why they say, what is it?
Come out
and fight. Yeah, come out and fight me like a man.
Come out, you Black and Tans. Come out and fight me like a man. It's a
Show them
song.
how you do.
Tell them how.
Tell them how you.
Tell them how the IRA made you run like hell away from the green and lovely lanes in Killashandra.
Sounds way better when he says
See,
it.
now I'm glad I wasn't drinking because if I was drinking, I would have started singing that song.
Okay, now we got to get another. See, speaking of
feel
which,
like we need one more.
We need to get topped off here for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, do you want to go out and
We're
have a
running
look
on.
at the streets? Well, this is a real bar as well. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
there's fake bars in Temple Bar. There's two.
Oh,
good
that's the one that all the Americans in my chat were like, you got to go to Temple. You got to go to Temple. Every Irish person is like, do not go to Temple.
There's two good bars in Temple Bar. The Palace is a great bar, and the Halfpenny Bridge is great. But the rest of them are all run by corporations. They're massive. Like there's one bar called the Temple Bar, and they put their goddamn Christmas decorations up on the 30th of September this year. Now there's a special place in hell for anybody who puts their Christmas decorations up in September.
Yeah, you'll see.
And you know, because we're an immigrant nation, you know,
Yeah.
even pre-Ungurta Moor, let's get this right. Ungurta Moor is the Great Hunger, also known as the famine. We don't like to use the term famine because that would indicate that there was no food in the country.
Yeah,
And there was a natural phenomenon was exacerbated by British government inaction, and I would use the term genocide in the last book I wrote on Mike Quill, the great Mike Quill, who founded the Transport Workers Union of America, great union. John Samuelson's the president of that great union, the man who the first union to back, the first union leader to back Zohran. The first union leader now, not union, okay? But anyway, I digress. But the fact is that food was exported out of this country while people starved to death.
Yeah.
And in that little book I wrote on Mike Quill, I
At
said,
the time,
this is it,
I've
genocide.
heard that there were indigenous populations that were sending food shipments to Ireland, and also the Ottomans as well. From what I, not to insert the Turkish people in here.
You're correct on both counts.
But that's what I've heard. That's all I've heard is that there was great respect for there's like.
I'll tell you the name of the people who sent us money. The
Yeah.
Choctaw Nation.
Yeah.
They sent us $170. Now everybody says it's this amount and that amount. I know exactly how much it is. $170, right? And a few years ago, that's a lot of money for them. They'd only been on the Trail of Tears themselves.
Yeah.
And they were stricken by they were affected by our plight, I suppose. And a few years ago when COVID came, there was a WhatsApp came with a GoFundMe for the Hopi and Choctaw tribe. And at the time, they had about 200 grand in it. And we sent them back about $6 million from Ireland. So we never forget a slight, but we never forget a kindness either. And that is nice payback. And I believe, but I've never really read this, but I believe that 2 students who are Choctaw are allowed to come to Ireland to study every year on a scholarship. I've heard that. I can't absolutely say that's true. But there's also a lovely sort of a memorial down in Cork. And it's some tall feathers, maybe 20 feet tall, about your height, and they're in a circle. And it's called Kindred Spirits. Isn't that beautiful?
Wow, that is
Kindred
beautiful.
Spirits, like they're beautiful feathers, like so they are. Well, look, come on, let's go to Dublin Castle, right?
All right, we're gonna get another pint though before we leave, right?
You want to get a pint now? Sure, I don't mind. Yeah, come on, why not? Yeah,
I told you
We'll be quick about it.
Yeah, all right,
Yeah.
you are quick
We
drinkers,
gotta-
all right, yeah. Mind your head here.
Oh yeah.
Because everyone here is about 5'2".
You good?
Yeah.
You'll be all right with another one, will you?